February 1st, 2023. I want to get into the issue of this related to this Tyre Nichols case. I haven't. I kind of wanted to wait a little while on that to see kind of how things settled out before I said much about it. The Basically, I don't want to really get into the whole basic issue. I think that's been already hashed over a lot. We all know these five police officers definitely did something bad, and they're in real big legal trouble. They're charged with murder and a bunch of other things, and that'll be played out in the court case as time goes on. And of course, some other people that have incidental involvement are getting suspended, or I don't know what's only going to happen with them. Some paramedics, I guess EMTs or whatever, they got in trouble, and I guess maybe got fired. Whatever. Point is, there's a lot of repercussions of that, but basically, what I want to get into is the way the political system seems to be, again, reacting to this case. I think this one may not be as effective as some people think it will be. There was a whole, I thought it was getting a little overdone about how shocked everybody was. I mean, it's a brutal beating, and we've seen those done by criminals in New York all the time. Police officers in this case, we don't know why they did it. That's still one of the big questions. I guess it probably won't matter a whole lot as to what the legal outcome will be, because obviously at some point this turned into way inappropriate behavior. But it'll be interesting to see, why they really did do it. There is some rumors floating around that there was actually some issue between this individual, this Tyre Nichols, and one of the police officers, and I don't, as I understand, as of this time, that's unsubstantiated and perhaps somewhat irrelevant ultimately. But the real question is, what is the political impact of this? The Biden administration seems to already be wanting to use this for one of their initiatives to, go against police again. So at any rate, if you like these videos, please give me a like, and subscriptions are needed. I appreciate those, and we'll see what happens. But this whole, is reminiscent of the old defund the police thing. But really, I would make the case that in reality here, actually liberal activities and policies are what kind of leads to this. I mean, we already are having a record amount of police resignations and retirements that are occurring, faster than normal, and the cities are struggling to replace their police officers, particularly in areas dominated by Democrats, with their anti-police policies. And so, that leads to a situation where perhaps you're recruiting people in the police force that you ordinarily wouldn't be recruiting, lowering your standards, which then very well might lead to incidents like we had in Memphis. So I think that quite the contrary to any defund the police efforts, I think that really this should have almost no impact on that issue at all. In reality, these are basically the actions of five individuals, which we don't know why they did it, but it had nothing to do with properly carrying out police work. I don't think it was a policy issue at all. I think it was really something that we'll maybe determine later what the real motivation was. It's possible that it was because there was a near collision with a police car, or maybe they thought he was a carjacker, or maybe they misidentified him as somebody who really was a wanted individual. Something like that could be the case, or something that's a personal issue. That will come out later. But the key issue is it should have no real impact on the issue of police policies or any of these crazy federal police reform bills that have been proposed. I mean, there could be some things that could be done at a certain level. I mean, it probably might make some sense that if somebody has actually been fired from a police force, maybe there should be some record keeping of this in their background check so they don't just go to another jurisdiction and do the same thing. On the other hand, you're kind of blacklisting people too, but if you do that, but some of these other ideas, I mean, for instance, qualified immunity, that's a non-starter. If you want to really create even more havoc in policing, would be to repeal qualified immunity, allowing the police being personally legally viable for any kind of lawsuit, which they're probably ill prepared to defend personally. I mean, these are not high paid individuals really in the big picture, and so um, that sort of anti-police act attitude is really counterproductive to anything that you really want to achieve, whether it's avoiding any kind of abuse issues or having good quality policing to protect the public. It's just not the thing that needs to be done. And would want to make that comment. But I think I'm getting to see that we're going to see efforts to pass some kind of bill again. Last time I was kind of glad the thing failed, which weirdly enough it failed by a Democrat filibuster. They they think they don't want the filibuster. I don't. That's kind of weird in my opinion because they actually used it to block this bill that that was that had been passed and not passed, but I mean been proposed by the Republicans, and yet it, um, it was killed because they didn't want Republicans to get credit for it, I guess. Um, that's one of the that was a Tim Scott and Cory Booker bill that and I'm referring to. So, and I don't know if I even agreed with all of it. At least it didn't have this qualified immunity thing. And really, I don't know that federal involvement is necessary. I mean, it looks to me like the actual consequences for these particular officers are severe enough to deter this kind of behavior if it can be deterred. Otherwise, you're just dealing with, people occasionally do wrong things and there are bad consequences. Um, but of course, certain people seem to have an agenda, particularly the Soros organizations, seem to actually want to promote anarchy in this country by getting people elected to public prosecutor jobs, for instance, DAs and so in various cities, who really don't want to enforce the law properly and allow crime to run rampant. And so we need to continue to oppose these kind of initiatives as much as possible. And I don't think that, basically, while the localities, I think, should pretty much fund their own police forces. I guess there might be some additional federal funds. However, federal funds come tied to federal policies, and I don't know that we really need that either. I think in this case, it's that the locality needs to clean up their own act, basically. I think the lawsuit that Benjamin Crump is going to lay on them very shortly will send enough of a message to them. So, at any rate, that's kind of my attitude toward that subject, and I did want to kind of get in there. I do think, in fact, these police officers are actually going to get railroaded, and maybe they deserve to be. I don't know. I mean, the second-degree murder is an interesting question, although if they get charged under the federal what do you call it, civil rights violation under color of authority law, given that it's led to a fatality, that could even have even more serious sentences than they would be getting under the current state laws, are about the same. So, that's that. We don't know why they did this, but it's definitely a lesson to everybody. I mean, after all, they had body cameras on. In fact, they were even being observed by an independent camera, it turned out. They seemed to be completely oblivious to the fact that everything they did was being observed and recorded. So we'll see what kind of defense they have. That will be interesting to see what they do. But anyhow, like I said, the main thing I think is to not go off and pass a bunch of federal laws on this subject, because effectively already have the adequate laws in place right now, and in fact they're being enforced. So enough of that. I just thought I'd kind of address that subject. And otherwise, I guess things are proceeding I addressed the Ukraine situation last video. I don't think I need to say a whole lot more about that now. We're just continuing to watch the situation. I did hear what Boris Johnson had to say on a special report on Fox recently, and I think that, I mean, his idea of completely ignoring the fact that you're dealing with a nuclear power right on their border in a way that could cause an existential threat, if nothing else, to the Putin regime, because after all, probably the regime itself considers itself interest very equal to the interest of the state. And so we might think, well, unless we're hoping for a revolution or something, it's quite possibly he's going to behave in a way that he wants to preserve himself. And so I think there really is a real issue that attempting to actually, drive them back into Russia is going to lead to some unnecessary escalation if it's possible. It looks like at the moment that perhaps the opposite may be about to happen. And like I've been saying, I'm kind of expecting, it looks like the Russians are slowly but surely moving toward the offensive here. But they're moving fairly carefully at this point. It hasn't come on like a blitzkrieg type maneuver at all, but it does seem to be intensifying. So we'll keep an eye on that one. And anyway, I'll be wrapping this up for now. As always, I'll be posting on Rumble, trying to build up a little bit of a viewership over there too, because you never know what happens on YouTube. And so, at any rate, and then of course, the links to my social media. Well, I should say links, but my address to my social media account, I don't really put a direct link. I just put the addresses. You can, of course, go on those and follow me. I'm on Twitter quite a bit, making various comments. So until next time, that's all for now.